Hello viewers, welcome to the show. It's the Business X-Ray Show, and today we have a special edition of this show, and we're looking at the questions that you've brought before us. I know many of the sessions we've had here, we've had more questions than the time we have to actually respond to all of them. So today we are dedicating time to actually look at some of these questions, quite interesting ones, and I would like to implore everyone out there to actually get a pen and a paper, because these are questions that you can clearly see coming from, you know, the hearts of entrepreneurs, from people that have been, you know, battered somehow by business, but then also seen opportunity on the other hand. Because this show is basically here not just to give you motivation to start a business, but to bring you experiences of other business people so that you can learn from them. Now, in the show, on the show this afternoon, I have Charles. Charles, you must welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and I'm very delighted to be here.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. How do we begin this, Charles? As a way, because we have to remind our viewers what this show is about, and why we have this show, and why it is done the way it's done.
It's a very brilliant observation and question from you, Charles Bogie. And I want the viewers to know that this show is like no any other. What we've done is bring that element of testimony, actions, stories of real Ugandans, people just like the viewers, people who have grown up from the same environment like the viewers, coming in and narrating what they have done. And when they do that, you begin to see that your brain gets challenged without your knowledge. Yeah. The brain is a very interesting organ. It tends to absorb information even before you have started to look for that information. And once it absorbs something and says, if the thing can be done, it begins to take you into a guilt mode. Yeah. And it is that guilt mode that makes you to wake up in the morning and just say, if that man from Amuria could start with one garden of green grams, and today can have animals in thousands, and is a trader in thousands of livestock, and is still at his 34th birthday, why can't I do it? True. So what this show will always do is to try and mirror as many scenarios of the viewers in this country as possible. We brought here women who had no backgrounds of proper parentage or resources. We brought here girls who had limited resources, but they had a degree in pharmacy, for example. Yeah. And they used that to take off and become people running 3-4 pharmacies at a go.
I remember the story of Grace.
Exactly. We brought here young men who came from a family fairly well established. The man at the Grand Imperial, who is owning a dry cleaning facility. And the message in there, for example, was, whatever your background, can you also chart out a path of your own? Yeah. And then forget about trying to ride on daddy's image. Daddy did something. He gave you a foundation. Yeah. Can you build from there and move on? Yes. We have brought here people who have been in business for a while, and they were in their career of, say, laboratory services. And the man said, I'm going to take off from this direction, and then I will stick to the path of laboratory services. But Mr. Kiyimba did not only stick to that path, he also went and registered an internationally certified laboratory in this country. And he also shared with us here a message which I thought was very interesting. He said, I have had so many young people pass through my hands, and those have gone out there to improve the sector. We have also brought in this show individuals like Ilino, literally stopping in senior 2 and starting with one animal, and the man now is building a hotel in Otuke. We are demonstrating one thing, that whatever your circumstances, education, age, gender, resource envelope, it really doesn't matter. Yeah. If this brain here is well directed, you can start a journey that can be very impressive, and impressive in a very short time.
Beautiful, Charles. Beautiful. And directing brains,
yes,
is actually what we are doing on this show.
Exactly.
And on that, I understand. In fact, as we go into the questions.
Yes.
Because there are quite many, and we've tried to actually do a digest of some of those questions that you've sent to us. Like I said, time is not always our best ally. Sometimes we get a lot of questions that we can have time for. So we are paying special attention to those questions. And I want you viewers to really pick your pens and papers, because there's quite some interesting pieces that are coming out of this.
Very good.
And in our last segment, we'll also give you a chance to ask more questions, because today we are speaking to a business coach.
And I want on the spur of the moment questions. Just bring them and just say, Chichi, right as you speak there, can you handle this question?
Beautiful.
Let's interact with them.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yes.
Let's dig in, Charles.
Yes.
On one of our shows, we had a question from, you know, when we hosted Rogers. Rogers is from Isingiro, and he has a vocational institute.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so there's one of our viewers who was asking, what can I do to start an IT business training institute? Can 2 million suffice?
Very good.
We can broaden it to starting a business.
Any other enterprise that you want to start. I think there are basics that you must address, and Rogers had done that. One of the basics for you to get into any type of enterprise is try to master that space. For Rogers, what he did, he got for internship, which should have been free, but because he wanted to master the space and wanted people to open up and allow him to get in, he said, let me pay for it. But the minimum is you must know the key success factors of any business you are going into. Many times we assume that because I grew up in a family where they rear chicken, I've seen chicken, I can get into chicken business. But ask yourself, how come some individuals started with 2 chicken, 5 years later, they have got 2,000, 3,000 chicken. But there are families that have had chicken for 20 years, and the chicken are still between 11 and 12. Therein is some message that you need to pick up. So there is something that somebody who moved from 2 chicken to 3,000 that you need to know. Things to do with the breed, the disease handling, the handling of the chicks, the issues of vaccination, the issues of handling the eggs. Those are basics. If you just assume that, you know what, I've grown with this thing and I know what to do, you've missed it. That is a peasant way of doing it. We are now talking of a commercial way of doing it. So the key success factors is very important. Number 2, start something within your resource envelope. Do not try to over-glamorize your takeoff. Takeoffs only matter when you begin to have the customer as soon as possible. If you can get into that space, like the man of the laundry did, and quickly start getting a few people delivering the garments, take off with the resources that you have. It could be at your home. Muyingo started a school called Seta School. It was not even named at that time. In his sitting room. Start with the resources within your means. Number 3, you also need to know what it takes to convert an idea into a solution, people buying it, and make sure that they are buying it at a profit. So those basics are just the bare minimum.
Bare minimum. And I think by doing that, you're answering a question which again came out when we hosted Simple. Mr. Simple from Bushenye, dairy farmer.
Correct.
Because someone was asking, what is the smallest capital needed to start this time a dairy farm, but we can again broaden it to a business?
It's a very good question, because you might say, what is the best question would be, what is the minimum resource envelope I need? Because when you put the word capital, we now immediately talk of cash. Cash. Simply said, he watched the uncle manage to look after a large family with his dairy animals, and he said, but I've been getting my simple salary from a salary of the teacher of geography. Why can't I start with 1 animal? He had no land for that 1 animal. So he said, uncle, I've watched and admired the way you have raised a dairy farm. I have no land. Can you keep for me this 1 animal? The uncle said, I love you. This is what I want from young people. Bring the animal. When they reached 4, the uncle said, it is time to put on more muscle. I'm giving you back your animals. He had no land for them. He had to sell, I think, 3 of them to get the land. You see what I'm talking about here? When somebody says, what is the minimum capital? If you look at just the story of Mr. Wagaba, simple. He said, I don't have enough capital to buy land, but my uncle has got enough land to take my one cow.
Oh, yes.
Do you see when you configure the word capital differently, that actually you remove many roadblocks?
Absolutely.
One of the biggest roadblocks we have is, I need to know how much cash. When you talk of capital, you want the real cash component of it. One animal will need about 2.5 acres. How much do I need? One animal will need me to plant the pastures. How much do I need? One animal will need me to work on the water. How much do I need? That idealistic business plan is not for takeoff.
I hear you. And I think we tend to really confuse and misunderstand the word capital.
Yes.
Because like you rightly put it, many people tend to look at the money,
yes,
the cash.
Yes.
But even your technical know-how can actually count.
That is the thing.
Yes.
And today, given what you have just said, if you talk to Simple today, you might actually be thinking you are talking to a professor in veterinary medicine. He had to master the rudiments, the basics of raising an animal within the setting of Bushenyi, and then seeing within his resources how can he go ahead. So your own knowledge, the knowledge of somebody that you know, the resources of somebody that you know who can give you some bit of space to get yourself started.
Social capital.
Exactly. All that is capital.
Yeah.
And almost every story of a takeoff has got that kind of rugged entry. Now, that ruggedness comes with a few limitations, and one of them is image. You know, he's here trying to think that he can also start a dairy farm. You see, he has had to take the animal the other side. Are you willing to withstand that conversation and stick to your vision? Are you willing to say, Uncle, I'm coming to check on the animals to make sure that they are doing well? Yeah. And then when Uncle tells you take your animals, are you willing to say, Uncle, thank you? Instead of saying, look at Uncle, he has chased me. Ownership of your destiny is very important in business. Much more important at the beginning. Because at the beginning, yourself, you are the most vital resource in the talk of that enterprise. Beautiful.
Thank you, Charles. So at this moment, I'm going to encourage my to actually tell my producer to just flash that number, the phone number, because we will need to integrate these questions as we move along, since today is question and answer. So as we move along in this discussion, if you have any question or comment, you can send it on the WhatsApp number, which is going to be beamed on the screen that you're watching now. If you're streaming online, I know there are quite a number of actually Ugandans that are watching beyond the confines.
Correct. And Charles, why I love what we are doing today is that if anybody thought we have been staging up all these kind of things that have been happening, today is the moment for us to rock the boat and just check all angles of business operation. Whether it's from the previous testimony giver, where somebody said, you know what, I will never touch a loan again. Somebody could have an angle to that and just say, you know that banks do exist in this country. You know that banks have assisted people become multi-billionaires. How do you reconcile a story that came on the show and said, I suffered, I will never touch a loan again? Those are the kind of questions we want to receive and bring you very concrete expert guidance.
Great, great. So we're going to have that number on the screen in a moment so that you can send through those questions right away. But as we do that, Charles, you remember the time we hosted Isabel, the lady who makes shoes?
Yes.
So we had an interesting question from Florence. Florence is in Nakasongola. And her question relates to a number of people in employment. You know, Isabel used to be employed in media.
Yeah.
And she made a decision to actually go and start making shoes. Made shoes, started exporting some of them, and she's thriving.
Very true.
So Florence asks, how do you manage the transition from employment to business? What kind of advice? Because there are many people who have nursing business ambitions, so to speak. And you know, there are those comforts the job brings. What kind of advice would you give them? How do you manage that transition? In fact, some of them can try to put a leg there in business, get burnt, beat. Say, it's not for me.
And it is even tying in with the story of Mr. Chimba. Remember Mr. Chimba, one of his first resources he had to employ was the wife. Because ability to hire and pay a regular salary was not easy.
True.
But he said, I'm going to get started with a clinical laboratory. So the message to those who are into employment and are considering transitioning is first and foremost this. Never ever imagine that your salary that you are getting today will continue to flow forever. At some point it will officially end, either because of a statutory requirement for you to retire at a certain age, or your own enterprise itself has suffered some setbacks, or somebody better has come and they have weighed you against that person, you've been replaced, and the world moves on. My message is, whatever your salary scale, put aside no less than 30% as a saving, and that saving must start to be invested immediately.
I hear you.
It is one thing to be saving resources and seeing it coming up. If you do not translate those savings into investments that will also begin to grow on their own, forget it, because you know that resource is available for you to pick and lift. What you should be picking from the saving should be a portion of a profit that has been generated by the saving, not to pick the saving and go and sort out your problems. So in effect, the first thing is, have you mastered that trait of saving resources from your limited salary? Number two, can you get started to run an enterprise that reflects your resource envelope? Again, I go back to what I talked about earlier on. When you are employed, you come with a certain identity. I work with MTN. I work with a big bank in the high street. Now, that becomes almost like your identity, not knowing that the enterprise you are going to start will not have the structure, the branding, the identity of MTN or Stanbic. Are you willing to tone down and begin to know that where you were a manager and people were running as you delegate and order them to do activities, this time you are going to be in charge of everything in that respect? And please feel comfortable that it's okay. Now, that reversal is what tends to pain most employed people. So I advise the employed people is that as follows. Number one, start early to save. Start early to start the investment, and do not mind the type and the size of that investment. The reason being that nobody is genetically confined to a particular enterprise. You took off with a certain basic takeoff. As the resources improve, you can always migrate to something better and better and better. I go back to Muyingo. Muyingo starts at the sitting room. Now, there's nothing genetic about remaining in the sitting room. What matters is, when you took off, did the customers start saying, this is beautiful, and telling others, and telling more, and then the numbers begin to grow. And as the numbers begin to grow, structure begins to come in. You now say, no, it can no longer be in the sitting room. Let's hire a room. Let's give it a name. But you know that Muyingo started coaching students without a name of a school? And as people were producing results, and the customers were saying, brilliant, brilliant. But when you are coming from the corporate world, a name is important. You take 6 months to decide on the name. I want to go and check with URSB whether they have kept that name. I'm going to secure my name.
The logo.
Then the logo. Then the location. Then whom do... All those things, you are concentrating more on your image than concentrating on more how to serve the first customer.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now, again, in some of our interactions past, Richard Senkungu was commending you specifically for the job you had done in coaching him and his group.
Okay.
And within that, he was referring to what you talked about as the 5 givers of wealth and how those transformed the way he's operating business.
Very interesting.
If you can walk through those 5 givers of wealth.
It's a very interesting submission from, he's called Mr. Sen?
Richard Senkungu.
Richard. So Richard brings out something fundamental, which no matter how big your enterprise is, if these 5 are not satisfied, you are going to lose that business. If these 5 are not satisfied, it doesn't matter the history you have had, a good run, a good branding. If these 5 are not happy, you must leave. You can be the biggest construction company. If these 5 are not happy, you must leave the business arena. So number one, do you have a happy customer? And how do you know that it's a happy customer?
Yes.
He comes again and makes referrals. Very important. If a competitor comes, he sticks with you. Number two, you don't get a happy customer without competent employees. That's why I normally tell people that for public consumption, you just say, I'm here to create jobs for my people. But privately, just know that you are here to offer solution to the private sector. Yes. The jobs will come automatically. So what do you then do? It's not about giving jobs to your people, getting workers that bring value to the customer. That's number two. If your workers have lost that ability, nobody will walk to your premises and just say, Mr. Chichi, before I can come and sleep in your hotel, how many of your relatives have you given jobs? Because you should have given jobs to the relatives. They simply say, can I check on the room? Can I see the kind of facilities that you have here? Once that is seen and the workers are all over the place to make sure that the comfort is assured, it's done. So number two is workers, competent workers. Number three is the suppliers. It is inconceivable that one entity that builds towers in this country or in the East African region will produce the aggregates, the sand, the iron bars, the cement. You don't produce these things. These ones are supplied by suppliers. And if you're a credible business operator, do you know what happens? Suppliers are lining. Please, as you begin to crack the ground like this, they are saying, please, let me be the supplier of cement for the entire project because I know I'm going to supply you 100,000 bags of cement. But a happy supplier will require that if you are paying every 30 days, please pay every 30 days. If you are paying every 6 months or each time you are paid your certificates operation by the customer, please deliver my money. I will appreciate it. Suppliers are such a key resource for making you competitive. Not only do they give you resources without interest, they also give you resources with advice.
Yeah.
That you know what, in July we are going to close for servicing of the factory. You take all the orders now. That information is not given to any other person, but they give it to you as a treasured client of theirs. Suppliers, very, very key. Number four, what is it that you need to look after very, very well? You need to look at your leadership, where you're operating from. And sometimes we can call it government, we can call it the environment. The environment that is influencing what you are doing. Yes. Because those are the people who will determine where to locate the next police station, how to renovate which particular road. But once you're able to pay taxes and say, this one here employs our people, let's make sure that road is tarmacked. Let's make sure that this police station here is not merged. You see right now we're doing merging. Yes. Do you know that the merging is not scientific? Okay, there's a little bit of science in it, but there's a lot to be considered. If we merge that thing, do you see that factory there? Yeah. He will not be happy. Let's not merge this one. So your leadership, your community, very key. But then number five is the financials. Those financials are there to give you the resources to cross several valleys. To what extent are you consistent with your bankers? Okay. Now, if all these are happy with you, don't mind whether you are from Eritrea, whether you are from Ethiopia, we shall come to Cafe Javas and just enjoy the beauty, because you have looked after all these five. So those five are a must, no matter how big you become.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And they all require sweat. That's the other interesting. The thing of saying, you be smart. Yes. Be smart, but look after these fellows. And these ones require sweat.
You have to invest in that.
Yes.
Beautiful. Now, Charles, you remember, we've paid special attention to the agricultural sector in this country because it seems it's a low-hanging fruit. Very and true. Many would actually agree. I remember among the first people we hosted here was Agassi Kalala Jr. And one of his Achilles' heel is in agriculture. Yes. We've had a lady from Zombo, Anna. Yes. Of Saving Cooperative from that side, a seed multiplier. Correct. We've had all of them in between. Yeah. Now, we have Yemi. Yemi Elizabeth seems to be troubled by the sector. He has put in everything, but he seems to be just frying money there. Nothing comes back. Nothing comes back. So he's posing a very simple question. How does one succeed in agriculture? Because he has seen the success stories. Yeah. How do you make it there? Yeah.
Agriculture in our country has got some peculiarities, and you need to appreciate those and then choose which part of agriculture you are going to be in. If you are going into production, chances are that you are going to do production based on nature supplying the necessary rains. Now, if you go by that and you are a dairy farmer, during the dry season, this animal cannot give you enough milk, but must be fed, must be vaccinated. Those can be a lot of costs. During the rain season, there's abundance of grass. And when you have a lot of pastures, too much milk everywhere, what happens to the price? You are supposed to be enjoying during that time, but the price again has been depressed. So what I'm talking about here is, first and foremost, choose which part of the value chain you want to be in, where you could easily contribute better and maximize your returns. But also, should you choose those aspects of production that are dictated by the climate of the environment where you're operating from, you now need to do other things that make you peculiar. What do I mean here? Here's an example. Every year we harvest maize in this country. True. And every time when we're at the peak of harvesting maize from Chigumba all over the country, per kilo, it's 500 shillings. Give it just 3-4 months, it is no longer 500 shillings, it's 900 shillings. That's 80% up. Did you manage to store this grain, clean it, keep it free of aflatoxins, free from pests, so that you get an 80% rise in the price? If you didn't, you've lost it. So there are things you must be able to handle to ensure that you benefit from the price upsurge. And the price upsurge is a must, because at that point nobody's harvesting. There was a season, the season ended, whoever is holding the stock, you are dictating the price. Because many of the challenges in the production of agricultural solutions is the glut in the market. Everybody is bringing a pineapple to the market at the same time. You hold on it a bit longer, it's getting damaged.
No, it's quite interesting, because there are times when you see pineapples and they're selling you maybe 10 of them at 10,000. So you start working backwards and wondering how much were they.
And this is at the point of a consumer. It should have been at the garden maybe, because even at the garden you'd be say this is cheating. I'm taking these 10 pineapples, but I've cheated this man. But he has cut it, paid somebody. Loaded on a truck, paid somebody. The transportation, paid somebody. Offloading from there, paid somebody. Then give it to Mr. Bogi to continue at 1,000.
Quite interesting. And what I pick from there, Charles, quite strongly is the fact that agriculture is larger than digging and weeding.
Exactly.
And I think Elizabeth here needs to look at it holistically, because you're talking about an entire value chain.
Entire value chain. Where can you put your resource? And to be in that particular space, there are again key success factors. What does it take to keep a maize grain, which you bought and they told you it was dry, but it's not dry? Then you say, oh, this is dry. Then you use your fingers to test the dryness. Then you put it in the store. 90 days later, it is all done. It is 100% loss. Then you say, but what did you say that in 90 days it could be 80% price rise? Did you look after the key success factors of storage? How about pilferage? Those are things that make the losses to disappear. So you must be able to plug all those aspects associated with your segment of the value chain. And once you're in that space, drill and work hard to create your brand name right in there. And if you fixed it, here's the truth about agriculture in this country. It has some of the most abnormal returns that no any other commodity can ever match. I just talked about maize grain. Did you know that in the last season, the kilo would go up to 1,200? Grain, not processed, no value addition, just properly stored, 1,200. And it was scarce. But you could have picked it at 500 shillings. What am I saying here? You have just gotten 140% rise in the price. 140%. No other commodity anywhere globally will match that.
I hear you. Moving on, Charles. Competition. You know, it's one of those areas that keep some entrepreneurs sleepless. Alana Habwe Bihamizo from Barara I was wondering how a business can thrive through price wars in a homogeneous, closed environment. And
very
here,
interesting.
Charles, just to give it a bit of context.
Yes.
In my journey as a business journalist, I've interacted with people in certain sectors. And I think one of the sectors, since I'm not mentioning a particular company, I can mention insurance. There was a time, I think maybe 15 years ago, 14 years ago, the industry was going through a turbulence of undercutting.
Yes.
Where Charles has a client.
Yes.
And I want that client. So if the price is 10,000,
yeah,
I'll come in at 6.
Yes.
I know IRA has done a lot of work to try and harmonize that, but I don't know what your views are.
If you feel that customers are buying premised on the ticket price of the solution you are selling, you've missed the point. Customers want a conversation from what they have just bought. Yeah. What am I meaning? I buy this shirt, and if the seller is telling me the shirt you have just bought is of Egyptian 100% cotton, it has got a certain silkiness when you are wearing it. It has got a certain level of durability. And because of that, we are putting it at this price. If you compare this shirt with another one that looks exactly the same color, the differences are the following: A, B, C, D. You get more mileage out of this than the one that you have been trying to compare my price with. What has happened in there? The seller has given the nitty-gritty of the value somebody is about to give money for. Customers buy value for money. But that value for money must be assisted by the expert who's selling the solution. But if you just go to the street and everybody just dropping this and that, they are not even giving you education about what they are selling. You try and think that is going to be going by the price. So communicate what differentiates your product. Number 2, communicate the benefits of what you are selling to the buyer. They will buy at a higher price. Did you know that there are some restaurants here you go for breakfast at 35,000?
True.
And yet you can actually get a breakfast at 3,000. 10%. Somebody is lining up to be the other one at 35. Why? There's a certain communication that comes in there, and just say, in here is value for money. That word is key, but that word must be illustrated. The other thing about people abandoning the cheap, it can be a saloon, it can be whatever it is because people are saying the care I'm given as an individual, and I'm going to put that extra payment for that identity when I reach in the saloon and they say, Mr. Chichi, you are welcome. And
I've seen some service providers telling you they don't sell you a commodity or food or something. They are selling you an experience.
Exactly. Now that is the key word. Experience drives loyalty. In other words, I keep telling people that each time a customer leaves your premises, how does he feel, or how do you feel, you who has gotten money from that person? Are you more concerned about the money he has left behind as opposed to how that customer will feel after leaving your business premises? If you are concerned more about the feeling, the experience, you are concerned on what we call the long-term platform for success. Because once this person has left with whatever he calls a kilo of meat, and truly when it is cooked, it is just a fresh goat meat. And he said, I know the man who gave it to me. And he said, take this part of the ribs. And you see how they look like. The conversation during dinner is a reflection of the conversation at the time of purchasing the meat.
Beautiful.
Next time you go back to the same butcher. The others are saying, how is it cheaper? He said, no, I'm going right back to the other man. He knows what I want and is going to give me value for my money.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I know the big spenders, the people with the money, you know, as money grows, attention shifts from sizes of portions
to the
quality of those portions.
And of course also when you see these jewels, when you see somebody wearing a jewelry, it is tiny but first class. You see somebody having a beautiful pen, tiny but first class.
Quite interesting. Now, and I'm sure our entrepreneurs are taking notes. Now, we have Geoffrey Obita from Chitigum. He's saying, and I think it's related to one of the points you tried to bring out. He's saying, is it a must to have a business plan before I start my business?
It is a must to have a business plan before you start a business, but the difference is, what do you call a business plan? Many people equate a business plan to this heavy document, which is so heavy on paperwork as opposed to giving you ability to understand your enterprise. A business plan should be able to first and foremost make you fully understand the enterprise. Understand the territory you are going into. And understanding that territory or that type of enterprise does not need to have 70 pages. It could be 4 pages. But he has told you the key success factors on how to go into poultry. Now, the other thing about a business plan is that it now will tell you that, will you have enough resources to bring in the first customer? That's why it's important to plan. Because if you just jumped in and said, you know, I got my money from NSSF, now let me start the construction project, and this location needs 3 floors of a building. Wow, you start taking off. All the structures of the floors have been done. You have no resources to finish ground floor. In your planning, you are just excited about a tall building in that location. A business plan is supposed to remove emotions and drive realism. If it doesn't drive that, that document is useless. And many times, I tell people that you produce a business plan. Have you been consulting it as you continue? How many consult that document after it has been written and now they are working?
No,
it is for decorations.
The interesting one is that if the entrepreneur labors to actually pick a few points there, because it will have the vision, mission, and everything. If you went around Kampala, even in corporate environments, and ask people what their mission and vision is, including the senior managers, you'll be shocked.
They struggle. And now those are very simple sentences. Now this document is 70 pages. The vision and the mission and the values, are just 1 page.
Absolutely.
Do you remember this? Just this 1 page. It's a struggle.
Indeed.
So a business plan is not the glamorized paperwork. It is an instrument that drives you to become humble enough to know that what you're about to get into, you are not the first. And as you get in there, nobody guarantees you space. You get in there and fight for it. But there are certain things you must get right. The financials, the human resources, the market entry requirements. Those are addressed here. Now, if you have gotten that one right, and not just for purpose of getting a bank loan, and normally I ask that question, you got this bank loan, you're struggling to pay it. Where is the document you took to the bank indicating to you that you have understood this business and you are going to pay the bank? But you also, Chichi, you know, bankers are thieves. No, just get me the document. I want to see the assumptions you said. That this is the price, these are the customers I will be getting. Did you get to those assumptions? Or this document was produced by some expert somewhere, and because it was needed as a precondition for lending, you passed it over. At that point,
and that happens a lot.
A lot.
Indeed, without a doubt. Now, I have Peter Mwalie, again related to that. Is asking, how do you deal with people? It seems to have a problem here in the finance department in your business. What would be the best way to handle that area?
How to deal with people in finance or people in general?
No, in finance. Okay. Like, because you have employees in different areas. You have people handling the technical, let's say a factory.
Correct, yeah.
You have people handling the marketing, the sales and everything, but his headache is how best he can handle his finance department.
The finance department is an interesting department, and the first thing is for you to recognize that what are those elements in finance that you must take care of very well, and then allocate those roles clearly, and then monitor the implementation of those roles. For example, in the finance department, there are sales on a daily basis. And if you don't handle those sales on a daily basis, the avenue for leakages is right in there. You are making sales, but on a daily basis, you are not recording the sales, and then the sales are not reflected in the bank account. The pilferage is massive. So where are the sales? And if some sales are on credit, where are the records? And if the records are there, where is the weekly report on people who have not paid? If the report is produced, I want to put back to the person also who is asking that question, on spot. If this finance person you have given a job to record all the sales on a daily basis, it is your responsibility to check on that report and just say, these are our sales on a daily basis. I'm not going to get excited and start building another property somewhere in the village because these sales are coming through. These sales are coming because of this and this and this, but these are also my obligations. Analyzing the reports that are coming from the finance department is where the value from those fellows begins to filter through. If you don't do that, do you know that you can keep on blaming these fellows and thinking that actually they are useless? The moment they produce reports and you don't consume them, analyze them, use them to guide your decisions. These fellows are among the very first individuals to be frustrated by business owners. They produce a report which is saying these are the sales, and because there are also obligations from the bank, you should not be touching these sales to finish the other purchase. But because you are not reading the report, you picked the cash and went and purchased the land. Then you can blame these people for not bringing enough records, enough cash, and what have you. You are not reading the reports that are coming through.
And that is quite spot on, Charles, because a number of entrepreneurs actually have a challenge going through the reports. And it's a big one.
And I normally tell people it's more exciting to interact with the customer and see money coming in than to do their post-sales analysis of records. In there is where you now find out, this is sale I made today, did I make a profit?
Like they say, the devil is always in the detail.
In the detail. If you don't do this, you're excited that cash came. But as you consume this cash, you are supposed to be paying suppliers. Where's the money coming from? You got excited. You didn't even analyze the pricing. And in the process, you have been eroding. Each time you are making a sale, you have been eroding your resources.
No, I hear you loud and clear on that one. Now, there's Kisa area from Chiboka. He's saying, why do most businesses work, according to him, and the owner makes a profit, but after 5 years, they are gone? Quite interesting. I want to put it the way he put it.
The business has taken off. For 5 years seems to be steady and it has made profits. After 5 years, it begins to go downwards. Many things, many factors come on board. But first and foremost is the business that took off well in the beginning was serving customers in a particular manner. A repeat business or a returning customer is coming because of experience. Have you continued to service that experience? Two, a repeat customer who keeps coming is not tied to you genetically. Other people who are starting a similar business are saying, where have you been buying this from? We can supply better. Are you willing to compete with the people who have come to your space? Or are you saying, what I used to do 5 years ago is what works up to today? Competition has come in. They have mastered what you have been doing and then added an improvement. The sales must begin to go down. That's one of them. The other one is the resources were coming, and these resources were supposed to be removed at a particular portion. Not just to say, oh, I'm doing so well, I'm now going to start another beautiful property to compete with people who are in the same space with me, hardware business. You know, so-and-so has gotten a high-rise building. I'm also going to start a high-rise building. Unplanned diversification.
John Plaza.
Correct. That plaza is plucking not only the profits, it's plucking the real cash from this enterprise, the capital. Part of that money is for suppliers. Part of that money is for salaries. And you know that you begin to go behind in salaries. And these fellows who are now crying were such a long time target by the competition. You have been messed up by excitement of diversification. The employees are beginning to just say, you know, we used to talk to our customers, promise them service in 24 hours. He just doesn't know now what to do with a customer which promised to give anymore. The owner has gone into high drive in terms of what? Diversification.
Beautiful.
Now, but as you are doing that, the bankers who have been watching you for the 5 years, glowing and moving on, they're all saying, we want to give you money. Please come anytime we give you money in 24 hours. We know you. Here's you. Now, a combination of unplanned diversification with bankers saying, we know you, you've been trapped. You have the land title, very true, but that land title will never come back from that bank. It's a one-way route. you must go. Meanwhile, the workers are in salary arrears and they are jumping and they are jumping. And as they jump away with an assessment of who you are. If you survive that, prayers have been so powerful. Otherwise, you can't.
And you know the interesting bit, Charles, is
Yes.
that there will always be these brokers,
Yes.
land brokers or whatever brokers, who will be coming to you, Mzee.
Yes.
There's a good deal there.
Yes.
And you have the cash
Yes.
in the safe or whatever it is.
Correct.
Quite interesting.
And then we love
Yes.
recognition.
Absolutely.
It is in a human nature for you to be massaged a bit, and the bankers are calling you sir, manager, entrepreneur, our very best, and then they give you a separate service point. You used to be in a general service point. Now you're at the other side where you are waiting for the money as you are taking a cup of tea and watching Arsenal.
And these days they appoint a person dedicated to serving you every time you step in that bank. Quite interesting. Viewers will take, hold it there and take a very short commercial break. When we come back, we're going to pick the discussion from there. Like I said, we are looking at the key. Actually, these are key questions we've sieved from out of the thousands of them that have come through to try and understand how we can do business better after this break. Hello viewers, welcome back. It's again the Business X-Ray Show, and we are looking through some of the key questions or the questions that you sent along the way, because we know that we never have enough time to answer all the questions. So today we dedicated this edition to look at some of these questions that are, you know, rising, especially the commonly asked questions like they normally put it. But the whole idea is actually to help you understand better how to run a business and how to run it sustainably, especially in the kind of business environment where we are all operating. Now, Charles, quite interesting questions still coming in. I've seen the fresh ones, so we are adding on the ones that are here. They've already started coming through. And one of the questions that's coming through here, the viewer didn't leave a name, is saying, how do you explain the point of luck in business?
Luck can only be translated into money and success when it gets you prepared and the feet on the ground.
Yeah.
Otherwise, when luck just hits and you do not know how to translate that into happy customers, luck will not sustain you there. Sustenance in the marketplace is informed by wisdom and skills to service the needs of the customer very well. Because just being lucky that you owned land in Bugolobi and people were looking for tenants in the same area and you happen to own that house, when they get in there and then the money bang is given to you as a landlord, then you begin to enjoy life. Within a short time, this house here will require to be renovated. By the tenant will say, I'm in Bugolobi, the facilities you have need to be renovated. The person who got customers because of luck being there has been consuming the resources. He picks the land title, takes it to the bank. That's the end of that house.
Sure.
Luck brought you a customer by location. You had better put on the mindset of a business person. Forget the luck. There is no easy journey in this world, and more so in the private sector. You pay the price on a daily basis.
Great, great, great. I think that's well put. Now I have Menya Kuzaifa from Jinja. He's saying, how can one protect his or her business ideas from other people? I have this great idea, I want to keep it.
I keep getting that kind of idea that tell people that you are wasting a lot of your energy and time on protecting something you have not even sold in the marketplace. You know, today, the ability of people to tweak an idea is so massive that they will just look at what you are doing. Before you know it, it's a different company. So, in Africa, this thing of trying to ride on a peculiar novel idea for it to make money, first and foremost, such ideas most likely you are not able to have the resources to take it to the marketplace. Yeah. Now, if you don't have the resources to take it to the marketplace, and still you believe it is something worth it, talk to someone to hold your hand. You are too young, too small, to create something that rocks the marketplace and still own it 51%. Get on to the point where you can just simply say that, where can I get resources to assist me to walk into the market? Didn't Safaricom come up with M-Pesa? And it was also taken there by public resources, telling them, please test the thing. When it works, do you know that as soon as it had worked like this, several versions came up. And Safaricom would never say, you know, I'm the one who started M-Pesa, please, what you are doing has breached my whatever. They'll tell you, do you see how different this one is? Yours is on this platform, mine is on this platform, plus all the other places. Yours is junior to mine. Wasting time, losing sleep in trying to protect a business is a futile effort.
I hear you loud and clear. Now, Sepala Morgan from Deja is saying, I have half of the capital to start up the business. Is it wise, and underline the word wise, to have a loan to add on and start? I'm putting it bluntly.
Here's my message. First of all, any borrowing, the first thing is, how genuine are the assumptions behind the cash flow that is attracting a loan that you're about to take, so that you're able to make that payment. The moment you're able to say, you know what, I have this 50% of the capital. The customers are here, they are waiting, and they want me to start making this. Now I'm putting the prices here, and they are going to pay like this. That business has eliminated most of the uncertainties that would make this cash flow useless. Once that is done, proceed and take the money from the bank. But I always tell people, try to avoid using borrowed money to experiment something you have not yet done. One, because especially you are going to somebody who's already doing it, and they are doing it without a loan. You are going there with no experience plus interest of 25%. You have a double wind hitting your face, and the others are simply flowing. That's why many older players in particular sectors have enjoyed tapping into these businesses of the juniors who come in with excitement, thinking that, I want a loan, take off big, and then you can't hit the ground. So my idea is, if you've not tested the idea, if the bare minimum capital does not need more than what you have, start testing that idea with your own money. If you wanted a bus for transporting from Arua to Kampala, and now you don't have enough money, why don't you try a pickup? Sorry, not a pickup, a minibus. With your own money, take off, remove yourself from the bus, because it is possible to implement the idea using your own money. This idea of imagining that it must be a certain volume, it is because you're also fixing yourself to a certain level of takeoff. Tone down that level, review the needs, and try and take off using your own resources and pick the ropes before you walk into that space.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Quite a number of questions coming in, even before we actually unpack the old ones. I have papers and papers here of the old questions. Now I have the new ones.
I know.
So I think what we're going to do, Charles, is we're going to mix.
Very good.
The new one and touch the old one. Now, on the new one, I have Benny, and here is saying, I have a good habit of saving, but once I withdraw the money, I spend beyond planned. How do you help?
The first thing is, why did you withdraw the money? There should have been a budget for it. If you do not get to the point of budgeting, because a budget will now deny you to do certain things. The same lady, when she's given resources of the office and the budget is given, she obeys. Now, when it is her own money, she doesn't obey. It's a mindset thing. Begin to tell yourself that the resources that I have is A, B, C, D. I only touch it when it is particular, approved ways of spending. Outside that, take it as not money available for spending. If you don't build the budgeting attitude and being calm as people criticize you and the money is lying somewhere, being calm and knowing why you are not touching the money, fundamental.
Beautiful.
And that's a personal trait.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm Betty from Kayunga, Bugerere, 29 years old. I started my project for pineapple farming, 3 acres. But the problem, I don't have money for manure, And medicine, I think she means pesticides and all that. So where can I get help so that my project can go on?
First of all, that is one of the things I normally tell people, that the moment you get into a business, make sure that you have sufficient resources to push it to the marketplace. If you put in an acre and then you're able to plant, you have done the weeding, but you can't treat the plants so that they give you the right pineapples. You have an overscoped project. But that's already a mistake done. What else now can this person do? It is now to go to Good Samaritans. Many people's heart melt when they actually see what you've done, because there are many Ugandans who go begging with nothing to show what they use their time on. So a lady like that one is what you call, you have something in your hands. You are worth talking to. You are worth being assisted. So now talk to your uncle, talk to whoever, and tell them this is where I have reached. And if the pineapples reach a point of harvesting, uncle, I'm giving you a third. You rather give a third of that stock to rescue the other 2/3 than to imagine that you want some money from some Good Samaritan and own the whole thing 100%. Readjust your expectations until you redeem this thing. And then next time, don't overscope.
Great. I have an interesting one. It's a bit long, but it's saying, my name is Sam Otboy, from Otboy Town Council. Your daily business motivation has made me to procure 20 cattle.
Wow.
And they are starting to produce. I began with 1.
Oh my God.
My target is by 2026, I should have 70. To shift gears to another level, advise me, can cattle be used to get loans from banks? Then 2, at what stage does the young entrepreneur, I like this one, shift gears minus falling, move to the next level?
Excellent. First of all, I want to thank the Otboy man for having gotten started after hearing. Because wisdom that you hear and you keep repeating, nobody pays you for repeating knowledge that you had from somewhere. You will pay people for solutions that have been produced by the entrepreneur. In other words, you now bought the animals and the milk is beginning to come. Now we pay you for having taken the milk, not for having been able to repeat what it means to do a good business. So congratulations for doing that. Now, the question is, can cattle be collateral for securing a loan? We had a case here of Julius Emodu. Julius Emodu took the first loan, which was $500,000. Today, Julius Emodu is getting 80 million shillings in Amuria from a commercial bank. And all the banks are simply saying is, 1, we know your bank account, how it has been going. And from the run of your bank account, you qualify for this volume of money. But 2, we're also going to come and check what's in the farm. And they take photographs. We now trust you. The element about banker-customer relationship is, what is it you are doing, you are having, that can make them trust that the money will come back. Now, the cattle should be properly proven that they are yours. Number 2, if they are producing milk, you are not distributing milk to the villagers to enjoy. You are making sales. And if the sales are happening, where are the transactions in the bank account? The trust begins to come in. Before even you go to the bank, they call you. Sir, we have been seeing what you are doing here. Is there anything we can do to improve your farm? So congratulations for having started the game, and for delivering the solutions to the market. Bankers will look for you, and the bankers are listening. The bankers are listening. If where you are in Otboy, a bank has not come, they are going to come to you even by next week.
Indeed, indeed. Now I have Nteje Asimwe from Bushenyi saying, what explains uneducated people being successful in business as opposed to professors? Yet the former have no idea what a business plan is, no idea about mission and vision. Quite interesting.
Let me put it in a more humane manner and say it this way. That the earlier you drop out of school and get into business, the longer your experience shall be compared to somebody who first had to complete the education calendar. By the time somebody is finishing university, the fellow who left primary 7 will have had 7 years to 10 years of experimenting with the game.
Yeah.
And here's the message. As they are doing that every day, they have been in school, but for business.
Yeah.
And they are grounded and grounded.
They are paying their school fees.
Exactly. If you listen to the story of Mr. Wagaba, Mr. Wagaba was a geography teacher. But if you listen to him speak when he was on this business show, you just say, anybody who will tell me that this man is not a lecturer at the vet school, that person just hates Mr. Wagaba. They have mastered all the technical aspects of running that business on a daily basis. And the issue of your UNEB certificates, of P7, of Senior 4, of Senior 6 do not now matter for him. What matters to him now is the solutions he's delivering to the market. They have fulfilled all the technical elements required to get milk to the market. So whereas we stick to the paper definition of education, the world rewards education in the field informed by a desire to deliver functional solutions. And those fellows are educated in delivering working solutions.
Well put, well put.
Yes.
Another question. Thank you, Mr. Boji, for allowing us to get business expert insight from Mr. Chichi. What is Mr. Chichi's advice on how to enlist integrity and value for professionalism in a business in a country where most people want to get money but are not willing to give their effort and their best? Actually, many are looking for what to grab and move on.
I will say this. Ultimately, integrity and a desire to give more value to the customer beyond what they are paying for will win. I'll repeat that statement. If you take shortcut and advantage of customers, or even take advantage of your office and you have acquired cash, cash in itself is not a solution.
Yeah.
It is when you invest the cash and begin to deliver the solutions in the marketplace, that is where wealth begins to get generated.
Yeah.
Wealth is not acquired through salaries, through titles, through whatever donations that you get. Wealth is only generated sustainably in the marketplace. And that's why if you've used your office to acquire wealth and your children begin to imagine that they are genetically rich, one time you will get out of that office.
Yes.
One time the children will be of adult age and they will get married and produce babies. They will not take the same office. They will have no easy route of acquiring those things. Wealth is never sustained genetically. It's sustained by happy customers. It is sustained by beating the competition. If you don't fulfill those two, however way you got that resource, you must hand it over.
You'll get a very strange visitor.
And you've seen it happen in Kololo, in Nakasero, in Bugolobi, in different parts of the city. People have owned properties there. They have had to surrender on their own.
And they said,
you didn't know how to continue with those units.
Let me shift to...
Yes, the units were built using some shortcuts. But those units have customers who are demanding. We need the toilets changed. We need you to re-roof this thing is leaking. You've been eating this money because it's a money. You take the land title to the bank, that's the end of that wealth.
And the taxman will pay special attention because probably you earn in dollars as well.
Correct.
Good.
Correct. So I want Ugandans to know that no matter how much you think you are admiring somebody, ask yourself, who are the loyal customers giving that person I'm admiring a lot of money on a regular basis?
Integrity is key.
Integrity is extremely key.
Beautiful. I have Francis here is saying, I have a challenge in setting goals and targets for my business. And as such, I feel my employees are not doing much as I expected. And I think many business people, entrepreneurs, really have a challenge here. Besides even setting targets and goals, even just defining the roles an employee is going to do. There are many people who reach workplaces and you have to figure out what exactly they want to do or they're going to be doing.
You see, the staff that you have must, for them to be productive, one, there should be clarity of roles. The moment I walk in, then today I'm thrown this way, the next day I'm this way, I'm disoriented. And then I look stupid. No adult wants to work in an environment where it's like the boss is the most clever person. Each time I come in, I'm the most stupid. So clarity of roles also goes with clarity of targets. Now, clarity of targets must work towards a specific goal. Those goals must be generated through the leader, but by talking to the people on the ground. And then by watching what's happening with your competitors. So for example, if last year you managed to make sales of 200 liters of milk per day, this year, you know the animals produce at a particular rate. You can put a rate saying next year we should be at 25%. But the 25% not just because Ochichi mentioned it. You talk with all these workers of yours. The moment the team is part of the crystallization of the goals, they own them. You actually begin to be just like one of those who is monitoring them, but they will say, this is my goal and I'm going to exceed it. And did you know that there's more excitement for professionals when they exceed a target for which they were being measured than them just standing up in the office and just say, when will the salary be available? It's dull to be a professional who just focuses your eyes on the payday. Most exciting professionals love challenges. Challenges go with solid goals. Which goals are measured, which goals are rewarded.
Beautiful. I have Simon here. Simon is a salesperson and he's saying, how can I be a good salesperson? How can I close business?
Interesting question. A salesperson first and foremost must know what you are selling. If you extremely are familiar with what you are selling, like you'll meet Ochichi and I'm selling the power of business development services. By the time you finish talking to Ochichi, you should be saying, when is your next training? Because I speak the thing, but I put on your shoes. So when you are making a sale, don't pitch the sale just because anybody who has walked in must be willing to come and buy this. First, listen to the person. Put on their shoes. See their concerns. See where they have come from. Maybe they tried somebody somewhere. And then look inside and say, what do I have in my array of solutions? Which one exactly fits into this person's demands? Enterprise Uganda has got a whole range of solutions for business people. But I first listen to you. Put on your shoes. By the time I tell you that, go for this one, even you yourself will just say, the way you have explained, that is me. When can it be? Can't it be nearer than that day? Because now you feel the solution exists, but the timing is a bit ahead.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now you remember the day we had KG at Bango on the show?
Yes.
So we had a question we didn't answer, which I find quite important.
Yes.
It was from Richard Okumu. He's a manager of Nyaruvu Sako. And he's saying, how do we make youth understand that success is a journey, not a quick gain thing? You remember KG told us his story as a cameraman in Kampala and then going back and doing this. And at that point, Richard here was saying he's battling with youths who are members of my circle because of that.
First of all, I want to say that the young people were given a certain slogan, which slogan is total out of fashion today. Go to school, study hard, and you get a good job. Now, when they get through education and their jobs are not coming through, then they are told, join now a circle. They again expect a circle to be a quick solution to the other thing that they lost out on, a job with a salary. So they come to your thing knowing it should be every month I should be getting this.
Something.
So we are getting our youth who are coming from a certain mindset. So the first thing you need to tell your youth is that if it's the private sector journey, the private sector journey is simply driven by a customer's desire for value for money. To what extent are you giving that value for money? Number two, even if you are doing value for money, are you aware that somebody is coming to try and outcompete you in your space? Now, if you are willing to continue to be in that space every day, work on your game, be the best you can be to merit the next buy from the old customers and then the new ones. So our young people need to be toned down from the expectations they have had and from all the beautiful journey they had at school, only to find that the world is now totally different place. There are no guaranteed jobs. And in the game of the private sector, you pay your reward on a daily basis. So giving them that business mindset and then giving them examples of people like them who have made it. There's power in seeing another young person do what you are trying to teach another person, and then they say, if that one can do it, I think I can also
do it as well.
Can also do it.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, there was a very interesting question from Kenneth. Kenneth is in Mbale. He's saying, how can I determine the business donation line or limit?
Ah, okay.
Quite interesting.
Very interesting question. I normally give people this kind of observation that if you are not doing the following,
yes,
forget riches. In other words, having ability to grow organically.
Yeah.
Growing organically means that you had 10 million, you made a profit of 3 million or 2 million, let's say. You did not eat it all. You put a portion of it to the 10 million to get 11. The next time the profit will not be 2 million, it will be 3. And then the next one will not be 3, it will be 5. And then that organic growth has begun to take place. So what am I saying here? Anybody who consumes all the profit of the business through your donations, through your charity, through your goodness to your relatives, forget that enterprise growing. It will remain the same size. And here's the truth. Businesses hate to remain the same size. Because if the business is going to be the same size, you are going to affect your HR. You are going to affect the happiness of your customers. And at that point, that enterprise must go. So, in effect, what you need to do is this. First and foremost, whatever capital you have, don't touch it. Number 2, you have made a profit of 2 million. Don't eat it all. Put at least of this profit, 50% of it must go back to the business. Then the other 50 is where you put all your needs as a family, and then the donations. And please be comfortable to tell the person coming to beg for fees to their face that the only man available for me to give out this month is 300,000, but your school fees is 800,000. I'm going to give you 100,000. That's what I can afford, because that's what your records are communicating. The ability to say no to requests from relatives who think you are the solver of all the problems is one of the maturity measures for a business person.
Beautiful, well put it. Now, there's Musinguzi Asaf from Shema District is saying, my question is, what are the consequences of a dissatisfied employee on the project, and is adding the employer who denies views of professional employees or refuses?
There's what they call work culture.
Yeah.
25% of employees are not happy with the employer because of the nature of the work environment.
Yes.
The work environment I'm talking about, you are giving professional advice, somebody is sneering at that. Somebody sees you as if you are some young man talking jargon that doesn't fit in. No amount of a good salary will keep you long in that environment. Research has indicated that 25% of most employees who jump out of employment, it's because the work culture is so disrespectful, so unstructured, so unrewarding. The second thing that most workers are looking for, and according to research, it accounts for another 20% of dissatisfaction of employees, is challenges for opportunity to grow. Somebody wants to say, you gave me this department, it was at this scale, I brought it up to this point. They feel so nice. Even when somebody elsewhere in the neighborhood gives them a slight salary increment, they feel this environment where they have been given a chance to shine is a much better environment, and they will stick with it. So it is so fundamental to make sure that your employees have the right work environment and they get appropriate challenges. But as they get those challenges and stretching, you should be able to support them.
Actually, Charles, you raise a very important point, because from experience, what we've seen, there are businesses that have stagnated or collapsed simply because the owner refused to vacate and leave.
Correct.
Or listen to the professionals.
Exactly.
You know? And anyway.
And many times when you look at professionals and you assess them from the kind of money they are getting, the kind of resources they have, you've lost it. Look at a professional from the value addition he's bringing. As opposed to imagining that this young man also giving me advice, his advice, to what extent is it making customers happier?
And he's taking it in his area.
Do not try and look at him from the perspective of saying he's coming from a poor background. And this is a professional. It's like saying, you're a doctor, and you're here trying to treat my liver disease. Have you suffered from a liver disease before? And if you have, what was the degree of yours? Because mine is at a certain level. What was? So please, leave the professional to be a professional.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And listen to them in their nature, because they occupy a space that adds value to you.
Beautiful,
remember when they say wisdom is everything?
Yes.
This fellow without a proper empire is giving you wisdom. Use it.
Indeed. Now, Eddie from Gulu is troubled. He's saying, I need an advice from you. I desire and plan to start a feed production business, but when I try to save a little from what I earn, some temptation comes and I use the money. What should I do to start my new business?
The good thing, first and foremost, he has known there is a temptation.
Yes.
The first thing is, get to the simple word called budget.
Yeah.
Whatever resources that you have, can you put them into a budgeting line? And they say, this one here is for the feeds business. And keep it away. Do not even call it again my money.
Yeah.
The tongue, once you call something my, it is when your hand is reaching out, there's no guilt. But the moment you say, this is money for the business, it's done. The brain locks it in there. And it will be telling you, why have you touched that money? You are delaying to get started with your own business. The engine for guilt, the engine for taking action is with us.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So
Beautiful.
Until we learn to make use of that engine and direct it, it will be a gamble to pull out of the poverty issues we're talking about here.
Great. Now I have Alex. Alex is from Chiruhura. He's saying, I'm having some little capital I feel like starting with. And the people I ask for advice in regard to those businesses give negative answers, such as, Henry started it and it's no more. Does that one mean that you should risk and take your own decision? I want to put it as bluntly as it is.
Yes, let me first say, Henry, I normally don't allow people to say I have little capital. Just say I have capital. I have my capital and I want to start a business. People have been telling me that one cannot work, that one cannot work.
Yes.
That is very interesting. The truth is this, the business you are about to start, and they have told you that it cannot work, there are people right now who are in it and they are making money. If they are not there and you're a beginner, my advice is don't try. But chances are very high that there's no new business Henry is going to go into and it's totally vacuum. Henry is the first person to get into that space because everybody who has been there, he collapsed. There are some people who succeeded. Now, whoever succeeded, that's a jewel for you. What is it they did which, against all odds, managed to make this person take off? You've seen the negatives, you've seen the collapses, but then there's somebody who has made to crack, who has been able to crack it. In there is opportunity for you to ask, to seek, and to knock.
Beautiful. Charles, I know time is not our best ally, and we have quite a number of questions. I see us referring them to get another session. But quite an interesting one here. Someone is asking, is it advisable to build apartments for rent on your father's land, since it has a good location? I see it as money lost to siblings. How do you hedge such losses? I think someone is grappling with a decision here.
We normally tackle such conversations through the family enterprise. And the truth is that the land that you are using belongs to the family. But you are the one who has come and put value to it to come up with apartments. You need to ask yourself, in this family enterprise, which was called open land, if you now put in the apartments, what is your contribution to the development of this place? Maybe that land now becomes, only 20%. The other 80% is what you've done. So the part that you must share with your siblings of that land is the 20% returns coming out of that property. And if you do that, the quarrels are unlikely to be much. If you use your chest and just say it was idle, you know I'm the one who developed it, it's a matter of time you're going to have a lot of pain with your siblings. public resources or family resources are very delicate matter. Many people who fail to make it elsewhere, the fallback position is what we have at home.
Beautiful.
Who has taken it?
Yes.
Why? Why can't I also be part of it? And in their private conversations with their partners and spouses, they are saying, but why are you weak? Your brother has taken everything. You are weak.
Yes.
So, family resources, equity, transparency, and goodwill are very fundamental.
Quite key indeed.
Yes.
Now, Charles, I want us to end with this question. Quite many, but I know time is not our best.
I can't believe we have finished the 90 minutes.
Unbelievable, but we are there.
Oh my God.
Someone asked a question. There's a time we had a discussion on, I think it was again, Adubango. He was talking about his board, that he has a board of directors. So someone was really intrigued by that and is saying, how does someone go about putting together a board? Do they get paid? How do they get paid? Something of that sort, if you can shed a bit of light.
Very briefly, a board issue is a very fundamental thing as the business begins to grow. You've heard the phrases saying, separate your business, yourself from the business. You do the separating using policies and systems. But then you enforce the policies using things like the board. The board of directors are those individuals who will come and put in the oversight on the overall direction of the business, including goal setting, the vision, and everything else. Now, for you to get to a point when you can start benefiting from these people, number one, you need to be able to be ready to obey systems and policies. But number two, you also do not need to necessarily begin from what you call the standard way of having boards, which is sit every quarter. Your boards could be just advisory. And initially they may sit every 6 months. And when they come in, they know the kind of resources they are about to come and offer guidance to. And the expectations are going to reflect their contribution. Don't be shy to pay them what you can manage at a particular point. After all, should it do well, you should be able to reward them more and just say, you know what, you managed to make us streamline our finances. You managed to make us make better collections on our debts. You managed to make us control appetite for loans. All those are contributions from the board. So please do not imagine that there's a certain starting price. The starting price should be a reflection of your ability to make that payment. Many times some of these people are actually coming pro bono to just say, we love what you are doing, we want to guide you, to just make you succeed. Then you yourself will begin to say, look the impact of these people coming on board, and I'm going to give them something modest. Refund on their fuel. If they say, no, we don't want, just say, please, can you take this money and pay school fees for someone? So that they themselves will begin to look after and touch other people in the community using their contribution to your board.
Quite interesting, Charles. And I'm sure viewers, you've actually picked very key lessons in today's interface. Very practical questions, day to day. Extremely. How do you wrap this up, Charles?
I want to say that everything that it takes to create a successful entrepreneur, we are going to make sure it happens. You get something out of it from the business X-ray. Today we are looking at going into PDM. And we are saying there are those people who have never been in the money economy. We have heard the stories of a model. A man was a dropout of senior 3, and today the banks are giving him 80 million shillings without a land title. So I want to tell the Ugandans that the Business X-Ray program is a program you can always count on to give you the education and the counsel that you require to become a success story, not just for today, but long term.
Indeed, indeed. And like we always say, it's always good to watch this show with a pen and paper, because there are ideas that are going to be sharpened. There are new ideas you're going to actually learn. And we are here to actually give that business development support. And Charles, that's what he does every day. So I've been your host, Charles Boje. Until next time, have a good evening and God bless you.